as President Trump attempted to negotiate a nuclear deal and became clearer and clearer that nuclear deal was undoable, he was never going to sign a JCPOA 2.0. And all the people on the right who were complaining that President Trump wasn't being Barack Obama, that was not a MAGA position to be Barack Obama. It was never a MAGA position to be Barack Obama. Donald Trump said for 10 years that the JCPOA was the worst deal in American history. He was never going back to it as new details emerge as to the levels of coordination and talking between the United States and Israel over this current wave of attacks. It is emerging that it is rare. You listen to my show. It is very rare that I suggest that the president of the United States is playing 4D chess. This appears to be an actual real-life 4D chess move by the president of the United States to put Iran in a box, to keep them there, and then to allow for the possibility of Israel to destroy their nuclear facilities, large swaths of their military capability, with no risk to American troops. So President Trump was, in fact, asked by the Wall Street Journal about whether he was given a heads up by the Israelis. His actual response, quote, heads up? It wasn't a heads up. It was, we know what's going on. So again, President Trump being very clear about this. It appears the United States was not just read in on the operation. The extent to which this was, in fact, a 4D chess plan in which the appearance of negotiations with Steve Witkoff, for example, were actively put forward by the United States in order to sort of sucker the Iranians into going to sleep after it was clear that the Iranians were not making a deal. It's quite plausible that the United States was, in fact, involved in a sort of disinformation operation operated directly at the Iranian government. In any case, tactical surprise was not only achieved, it was achieved in historic fashion. And that looks a lot like 4D chess with plausible deniability from the United States. I mean, that's what it looks like from the outside and from all of the information that's being released, including from President Trump. So again, the extent of the strikes is extraordinary. The way that the operation went down is extraordinary as well. According to Axios, this strike was 8 months in the making. Axios reports Israel's stunning and sprawling operation overnight targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, missile sites, scientists, and generals followed 8 months of intensive clandestine preparations. The operation launched new war in the Middle East that could draw in the United States, says Axios. That's not true. It did not launch a new war in the Middle East. When people think of war, they think of full-scale ground invasion of Iraq. All the people today who are talking about a full-scale ground invasion of Iran are delusional, insane, or liars. That is not a thing that is happening. Israel, through air power alone, has left the Iranian regime on its knees. Israel has been attempting to eliminate Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities in an operation expected to last at least several days. The IDF is suggesting it may last all the way up to 2 weeks. Around 25 nuclear scientists are already dead. Israel targeted the entire top brass of the Iranian military. There is a story out that suggests that Israeli security officials said that Israel deliberately manipulated events to lure Iran's top air commanders into a meeting and then ensured they stayed there and then killed all of them with an airstrike. Many of the top commanders were killed in their beds because they were so sanguine about the possibility that Israel would do anything. And of course, they were wrong. Israel's Mossad had operatives on the ground conducting covert sabotage operations on missile and air defenses. In fact, the Mossad released video of its agents in Iran releasing sophisticated technology in order to target Iranian surface-to-surface air missiles. Here's some of that footage. You can see it happening here in the background. According to the Times of Israel, the Mossad spy agency revealed rare footage showing its actions against Iranian air defenses and ballistic missile launchers in Iran, showing 2 covert agents launching missiles from inside Iran. From inside Iran. The drones, apparently, this is insane. Okay, this is truly insane levels of competence. If you like competence, this is your morning. Mossad built a secret explosive drone base in Iran. In Iran, 2,000 miles away from Israel, Mossad built a drone base building explosive drones in Iran. And then the drones were used to strike ballistic missile launchers at a base near Tehran, preventing Iran from firing projectiles at Israel as the strikes began. Additionally, vehicles carrying weapon systems were smuggled into Iran. Those systems took out the Iranian air defenses and gave Israeli planes air supremacy and freedom of action over Iran. There was a third covert effort that involved involved Mossad commandos deploying precision missiles near anti-aircraft sites in central Iran. Highly coordinated, highly sophisticated. Israel did have a window of opportunity. That window was going to close. In the last round of fighting again, Iran had sent some 300 missiles aimed at Israel. Israel, in response, had taken out the S-300 batteries that were designed to shoot down Israeli Air Force planes. Israel successfully did that. The skies over Iran are clear. So clear, there were early reports that Iran had been attempting to send up its jets, which would have been the stupidest possible thing that they could do. The problem for Iran is that its Air Force is absolute trash. They just don't have any updated jets. So according to reports, the jets that Iran was activating were Su-24 military jets. Israel flies F-35s and F-16s. So I asked our sponsors over at Perplexity to compare and contrast these planes and who would win in an air battle, just so that we understand the differences in technology here. According to Perplexity, the Su-24, F-35, and F-16 represent distinct generations and roles in aerial combat. Here's a breakdown of their capabilities. According to Perplexity, the Sukhoi Su-24 Fencer is a tactical bomber for low-altitude strikes and ground attacks. It has essentially minimal agility, no stealth features. It is reliant on external support for survival in contested airspace. Meanwhile, the F-35 Lightning is a fifth-generation stealth multi-role fighter optimized for beyond visual range combat. It has sensor fusion that provides unmatched situational awareness. The F-16 Fighting Falcon is a fourth-generation multi-role air superiority fighter. It's been upgraded, by the way, by the Israelis. So what would happen in a combat scenario? Quote, the F-35 stealth and sensors would detect the Su-24 first, likely at 150 plus kilometers. Okay, just to be clear, what that means that Israel would see over the horizon 120 miles to see the Su-24 with the F-35. A single AIM-120D could engage before the radar even detects the F-35. So this wouldn't be an air battle. This would just be the plane goes up, the plane comes down. It's that simple. In close-range scenarios, the Su-24's poor maneuverability and lack of helmet-mounted cueing systems make it vulnerable to the F-35's high off-bore sight missiles. How about the F-16 versus the Su-24? Basically, it would not even be a contest. It would not even be a contest. The Su-24, designed for ground attack, lacks the survivability or countermeasures to evade advanced fighters. As seen in real-world engagements, non-stealthy bombers like the Su-24 are highly vulnerable to fourth and fifth generation fighters without heavy escort and electronic warfare support. Essentially, it would be a biplane against a modern military jet. And that is precisely, apparently, what happened. Again, we've been reading these statements for weeks in which the mullahs have been saying, we're not giving up our nuclear program come hell or high water. We are not going to stop developing nuclear weapons. We are not, under any circumstances, going to make a deal that ends with a denuclearized Iran. Again, Iran could have prevented this at any time. There's a point President Trump has made over and over and over. Iran could have stopped this at any time. All they had to do was say, fine, no nuclear program. And that would have been the end of it. The Trump administration wasn't even looking for them to stop developing ballistic missiles or funding terrorism. But they didn't. Instead, they decided they were going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And President Trump played this absolutely perfectly. Israel acted alone. Israel acted with its own capacity. Israel is doing this by itself. And the United States is saying, listen, Israel is our ally. Our interests and the Israeli interests align in Iran not having a nuclear weapon. But this is Israel's fight predominantly and foremost. And Israel is an independent country making its own decisions. And that is the thing that really matters here, is that Israel was saying to the entire region that if you screw with Israel, these will be the consequences. This morning, President Trump put out a series of statements himself. First of all, he was talking to John Carl of ABC, and he says, quote, I think it's been excellent. We gave them a chance, meaning Iran, and they didn't take it. They got hit hard, very hard. They got hit about as hard as you're going to get hit. And there is more to come, a lot more. President Trump's first statement last night, quote, I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest of words to just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told. That the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They are all dead now. And it will only get worse. Remember peace through strength, folks? Remember peace through strength? This is what it looks like. This is what Trump's foreign policy looks like. It's what it's always looked like. Anyone who is surprised by this has been ignoring what President Trump has been saying and doing for his entire time as president of the United States. There's already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it is too late. God bless you all. Now, the president did put out an even funnier statement last night. President Trump's first response to the Israeli attack was, quote, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. We hope to return to the negotiating table. We'll see. There are some people in the leadership who won't return. Subtle. There are some people in the leadership who won't return. That is true. And you can imagine the next negotiating session going to have to be some new names that are learned. President Trump also made a statement this morning. 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is day 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get there. Now they have perhaps a second chance. Well, Iran has basically blown that second chance already. Reuters is reporting that they are full-scale pulling out of any sort of negotiation. There is no one to negotiate with at this point. Also, they actually have no leverage at this point. What Iran should do, if they had any brains at all, would be to come to President Trump on bended knee and beg him to give up their nuclear program in exchange for the Ayatollahs remaining alive and the regime not being threatened and end to sanctions and all the rest of this sort of stuff. Because right now, the Iranian regime does not have the forward operating capacity. They just don't. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.